Hi again, welcome to the Bible Project podcast, the daily podcast. And we're continuing together this amazing story contained in Genesis chapter 21 about the arrival of the child of the promise. And today we're going to be covering Genesis chapter 21 verses 8 to 13. And we're going to kick off straight away, and I'll just remind you that yesterday, or the last time you were with us, we looked at the birth of Isaac, Abraham's second son. But you remember that he had a previous son, a first son. So what happened to him? Well, we're going to pick up the story of Ishmael because the events now look at him for the next couple of verses, and I'm going to read to you from verses 8 to 10. And it tells us this. The child grew and was weaned, and on the day Isaac was weaned, Abraham held a great feast. But Sarah saw that the son whom Hagar the Egyptian had borne to Abraham was mocking, and she said to Abraham, "Get rid of the slave woman and her son, for that woman's son will never share in the inheritance of my son Isaac." Now I find it rather interesting that on the day Isaac was weaned, Abraham held a great feast. Now I did some background reading into this, and I read and found out that the custom at that time was to breastfeed a baby for up to 2.5 years, which seems a long time by today's standard. And then the custom was to throw a feast to celebrate the child being weaned. In other words, the child reaching its first stage of self-reliance. And that forms the background to what's happening here. And it is in this situation that Sarah gets upset with Hagar's attitude. It finally bubbles up and blows over, if you like. And she now feels, with the arrival of Isaac, she feels secure enough to undermine Hagar and her son's Ishmael's status. Now we know by following this story closely that Ishmael was now probably 16 or 17 years old. And he has seen this new baby arrive, and they see him throwing this feast for him. And maybe on a human level, understandably, jealousy sets in. So he scoffs, it says, or ridicules. But I read in the New Testament, in 1 Galatians chapter 4, that Paul quotes this story, and he actually says that Ishmael did more than that. He said he persecuted Isaac. So Ishmael, the son of the Egyptian woman Hagar, he's looking at Isaac with disdain, and it begins by ridiculing and mocking him, and then actually escalates into something even worse. So look at the situation this day. We have Abraham and Sarah delighted because this new child has been born, and he's growing up and thriving and reaching his first level of independence. And you have Ishmael, who's not just angry, but he's jealous, and there's a huge problem now brewing between the mother of Isaac and the mother of Ishmael. Now, can you see that this is not just a matter of just family jealousy, but this is underpinned by the fact that this is a matter of what is going to happen to the inheritance now. Can you imagine, thinking about it from Hagar's position for a moment, a mother sees her son grow up, and then after all these years, she sees this new child come along, and her son's inheritance is threatened. Now, neither side are happy, and neither side want to tolerate this situation. And Isaac's mother, Sarah, she goes to Abraham and says, "Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for this child must not be your heir." So the whole issue is not just petty jealousy. It's much more serious than that. I want my son to have the inheritance that he's entitled to, and I don't want anyone else to get it, and I don't want anyone else to threaten it. That's what's going on here. But remember, friends, it was originally Sarah who came up with the idea that Abraham should go and father a son through this slave woman nearly 20 years earlier. But now, today, she's come to the conclusion that she doesn't want the competition about who will be heir in the future. Now, this upsets Abraham, understandably, and in verse 11 it tells us this. This matter distressed Abraham greatly because it concerned his sons. But God said to him, "Do not be distressed about the boy and your slave woman, Listen to whatever Sarah tells you, because it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned. I will make the son of the slave into a nation also, because he is your offspring." Now, Abraham no doubt loved this son, Ishmael. As a matter of fact, if you recall earlier in the book of Genesis, Abraham even asked the Lord if Ishmael could become his heir. So he loved this firstborn son, Ishmael, through Hagar, and he no doubt, well, very likely he didn't want to throw him out. But so he goes to the Lord in distress and prays or speaks with the Lord, and God says to him, "Listen to Sarah and do what she says." And he reminds Abraham of the promise he made with him, a promise that he would give him the land, that he was going to bless him, and out of him he would make a great nation that would bless the whole world. The whole world was going to be blessed through the descendants that he had with Sarah, his wife. God then reminds him that the additional child, Ishmael, wasn't even his idea in the first place. It was Sarah's. But it is now, of course, Sarah who wants to send him away. Now, God's response here, I don't think in any way is a plan to punish Hagar and Ishmael. I don't think that's quite what's going on at all. As a matter of fact, there's a good case for saying that it might be for the protection. And remember, he's not saying that she won't and Ishmael won't be the father of a great nation. It just won't be that nation through which the Messiah will come and the whole world will be blessed. But anyway, God, at the very least, promises Abraham that he's going to provide for Hagar and Ishmael. Well, I think we'll just pause there for a moment and we'll leave it at that point for today. And we'll pick up this fascinating story in the next episode. Now, I'd like to remind you that there's always a transcript of what I've said in any of these talks, and it's available in the episode notes of any audio version of the podcast, which is hosted on the Buzzsprout website. And there's a link to that site contained with, if you're watching this in the video, within the notes of any video version of the podcast, whether that be via Facebook or directly on YouTube. You can click through there, land and see the link to the Buzzsprout website, and then within the episode notes of the audio version, there's a full transcript of everything I say. And maybe today you've just dropped in for the first time. Well, why not join together on what, Lord willing, will be an amazing journey together through the whole Bible, chapter by chapter, verse by verse. And you can do that by going right back to the beginning as we began this journey together, about 9 months ago now. And there's also ways in which you can support this ministry if you want to. However, that's it for today. I look forward to being back with you again very soon on the Daily Bible Project Podcast. Bye for now, friends.